Welcome to another edition of the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. I'm so grateful, and I really am, that you're here and that you're taking the time to take in the content and take in the podcast. And it warms an old radio guy's heart that we can adapt to this medium and we can find a place to go, still share our thoughts, and continue the conversation. It's been a bit of an adaptation here to the podcasting side of things. Still learning a lot, still working towards making this thing better and better. No guest again this week, so I'm just going to share my thoughts on the headlines of the day. However, working very diligently, efforting, as the kids say, to get the mayor of Grand Forks, Brandon Bocinski, to come in. He's confirmed. We just got to work out a time to get him in here. And, of course, with the mayors on either side of the river, there's always plenty of things to talk about. The mayor, of course, has got Agristo. He's got the All True Sports Complex that's currently being built. It's a great time to be the mayor of Grand Forks, North Dakota, and we will visit with Mayor Bocinski about that. My hope is that he will appear on this very podcast for next week's episode. So one more week of me, which I hope that you'll take it all in, and I hope that you'll find this to be okay. So a couple of things that are on my mind for this week's podcast. The University of North Dakota, Minnesota Golden Gopher men's hockey tickets are selling for $1,000 a seat. The average price of a resale ticket is more than $250 for Friday's game and more than $350 for Saturday's game. The UND single game tickets went on sale last week. The UND Minnesota series scheduled for October 17th and 18th was sold out in the primary market within minutes. Now, for those that don't know, the tickets can work many different ways. You can get them in the primary market, which is you just walk up to the old box office and you buy them. Or you can go online, SeatGeek, those kinds of places. There's a lot of places online that are not affiliated with any sort of SeatGeek type things, and you can swap them out that way. Of course, there's always your various marketplaces and your various social media platforms, but you can certainly find tickets on a secondary market. On Ticketmaster, the official site for fans to resell their tickets, a pair for the season finale went for $2,000. That's $1,000 a night. There's been 110 tickets resold on Ticketmaster for Saturday's series finale. They've gone for an average of almost $380 a ticket. There have been 45 tickets resold on Ticketmaster for Friday series opener. They've gone for an average of $262.82. The general manager at the Ralph Engelstad Arena, Jody Hodgson, says demand has been strong. What's interesting about this for me is that it feeds in and continues to feed the narrative of how big of a deal UND hockey is in this area of the world. It also gives you a little bit of a glimpse into why a guy can win 65% of his games and be asked to leave. And that, to me, is really what I think when you think about the business of hockey and you think about the business of the biggest thing going in this city today, you very quickly can understand why Coach Barry loses his job. Coach Jackson has a huge mountain to climb. Optimism, of course, fills the cup this year. It reigns eternal. We're all very fired up for another UND hockey season. We've forgotten the mediocrity over the last couple of seasons, and we've forgotten how the last couple of seasons have ended, and we're ready for a new charge with a new head coach and with some new talent, some of it, of course, at the very top end. Future NHL draft picks in the first round. In fact, some are even in top 10 picks are scheduled to come to the University of North Dakota and compete in the NCHC. In this day and age of NIL money and in this day and age of kids being free agents year after year after year, and each day you're constantly recruiting the same kid, you can understand how people, especially in this area of the world, are expecting really good top-end hockey when the Gophers come to town October 17th and 18th. It'll be an atmosphere that even when Denver comes and other schools come is like none other. It's why they come here. It's why they want to play here, and it's what they hope to compete for. It will be a playoff atmosphere in October at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. Again, I say all that to say, when you think about, good coach Barry, this is how coaches lose jobs. This is how universities that depend on all of this revenue, hockey programs that depend on all of this revenue, it's how they lose their job. These men it's a serious business. And I think sometimes we forget that. We want to believe that it's a kid's game. We want to believe that it's these sorts of things that continue to drive coaches away. But at the end of the day, what it is Coach Jackson has got to figure out a way to win one or both of these games. Additionally, Arizona State on November 14th and 15th is getting the high demand for those tickets as they make their first ever trip to Grand Forks. The Sun Devils have 2 North Dakotans on their roster and a freshman defenseman and Lincoln Kuhn of West Fargo and sophomore defenseman Brazen Bozer of Minot. Demand has been really, really strong for that as well. There's great interest in those games. The season opens against Manitoba and St. Thomas, and, of course, traditional rivals like Denver and Duluth. Coach Hodgson says, our fan base is awesome. And I don't disagree with that one bit. I just think that the footnote here and the pressure starts almost right away. And the University of North Dakota needs to show up those nights. And, again, right now, we're all about it. It's all good. But imagine $1,000 a night. $1,000 to watch UND hockey at the Ralph Engelson Arena. Something that a lot of us take for granted, something that a lot of us has maybe become a bit passé as the Ralph has been around. I think getting ready to celebrate almost 25 years already in Grand Forks and built on the planet. We take it for granted. It's good to see to some degree that the demand is out there. It also tells you the program is healthy, as is the University of Minnesota's hockey program is healthy. And quite frankly, I don't think there's anything quite like it, that being UND hockey. Before we get to the next story, another sports story that I thought was kind of interesting that is worthy of a mention. The University of North Dakota overpowered Portland State 50-20 in the Potato Bowl home opener. The number 20 Hawks jumped out to a 15-0 lead before the Vikings had a snap on offense. I attended that game over the weekend. A couple of things that I think are worthy of note. They looked really good. There's no doubt. They looked organized. They looked on point. I get a little concerned from time to time that Coach Schmidt, and I don't mean this to be, it's going to sound harsher than I mean it. I hope he's ready when we got to do things like manage a clock in a tight game as a head coach, when we have to call timeouts in a place where we need to call timeouts in a tight game. The games get much, much harder from here. I believe they head to Montana this week. It's going to be much, much more difficult as the calendar clicks by. Also, they're number ones, as the kids say, the starters, the guys that have earned the right to be starters on both offense, defense, and special teams are very good. They are in the top of the conference, or near the top. The number ones are very, very good. And I dare say Bubba didn't leave the cupboard bare. He brought a lot of his luggage with him, as Dion said, when he went from Jacksonville State to Colorado. So Coach Schmidt did bring a lot of luggage with him when he moved his way back home to the University of North Dakota as a head football coach there. The issue that I believe the University of North Dakota is going to have going forward, as long as those number one stay healthy, aces, baby. The issue, of course, is when those kids start getting injured. And this is college football, so there is going to be a time when these kids do, in fact, get hurt. How are the number twos? How are the number threes? That's where programs recover and don't skip a beat. The whole next man up mentality is fine. They already have a depleted tight end room. And this last weekend, already some freshmen and true freshmen stepped up to answer the bell and played quite well against what I dare say is a bit of an inferior opponent. UND favored by 35 points going into the game, end up winning by 30. Doesn't exactly reek big test, but did reek, let's get a win under our belt so we can get this thing going and create a little bit of momentum. With that in mind, again, I'm as optimistic as the next guy, but I think the next couple 3 weeks is really going to tell you where we're at with this University of North Dakota football team. Lots of enthusiasm, the old JYD, the Junkyard Dogs. In fact, the community responded, by the way. The community felt it. The community responded. They're parking across the street in the empty Prairie lot over there off of 42nd. That's usually the only time you ever see that is when that lot is used for Bison football, which Bison will be here, I believe, sometime in November. So you have that going for you already, and then they come out and they have a nice big win on Potato Bowl against Portland State. But again, the only thing that I'm curious about at this point in time is when we start to whittle away at the depth of this football team, where they're at. And I think that's where Coach Schmidt needs an opportunity to build this program. The 2s and the 3s and the guys that are coming after the ones are the ones that are going to be tested the most, because the number ones, I think it's pretty easy to say they're pretty good. They're pretty good. And Jerry Kaminsky, he's a real deal. He's done it against Kansas State, and then he did it against Portland State. The guy has been he's just been what they had hoped for when they gave him the job. And on Kansas State for just a second, and again, to learning the job of head football coach, the only thing that I would take away from the Kansas State game is that was a winnable football game against a ranked team in the FBS. Could have been a program changer, and what a way to start. Now, lots of people will take moral victories out of that game. What I would tell you is get a first down. Okay, fine. Can't get a first down, punt the football. Rush 4, drop 7. I didn't get it. Again, Eric Schmidt presumably has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. And again, I trust Coach Schmidt, and I think there's a bit of a learning curve, certainly at this level. And being a head football coach, it takes a little time to learn all the nuance and all the things that you have to do. And that's not to say that he hasn't learned already and that he won't be ready when times get tight and the game gets tight. We start to get into the last 4 minutes of a game, and it's tight. And what do? Kansas State, first time out of the chute against Chris Kleiman, who used to coach at NDSU, I believe won four championships in 5 years, certainly is battle-tested. I'm not going to say that he got out-coached or anything like that, but I will say there was an opportunity in that game to go for the jugular, and for whatever the reason, it didn't happen. I want to tell you one quick story, and I'm going to tie it to Philly Karen. If you know who that is, I'll try to explain it to you as best that I can. But if you know who that is, then this will go a lot better for you. So Saturday at the football game, again, referenced earlier, was packed. It was awesome to see. People coming out and supporting the University of North Dakota football team. That's exactly what you want. It was fantastic. People were happy. They were in a good mood. Saturday night in the big city. Here we go. Football's back. Woo. Right? Big deal. So we being Layton Media, we have some seats at the Alair Center for football games. We have 4 seats, and the 4 seats, and 2 of which my wife and I were using. The other 2 were going to go unused for that particular evening. But we have the 4 seats. Now, there is some positives to having 4 seats and only 2 people using them. Of course, you have more room. It can get a little cramped when you have that many people in one venue at one time. But I'm sitting there, and let's just say 7, 8, 9, and 10 are our seats. Because they are. And let's say I was sitting in seat 8 and my wife was sitting in seat 9. Well, lo and behold, a lady comes down and sits right next to me. Now that's a Layton seat. So I'm sitting and watching the game, and this lady is a borderline obnoxious. We stand a lot when we're not standing, if you know what I'm saying. We're talking to the people in front of us. We're doing a lot of, and my wife sort of elbows me a little bit and says, "Hey, are you going to ask her to leave?" And I said, she won't be here long. Now, to my credit, and admittedly somewhat petty, I didn't change a thing. I sat like I sit, which takes up about a seat and a half. I made no accommodations for this woman whatsoever. I have to tell you that the reason why is because in my day job here at Leighton Media, I'm a general manager. And I like my job. And I don't really have any desire to compromise that in any way, shape, or form. Now, could I have asked her, please move? That's one of our seats. It's Grand Forks, North Dakota. Is there an opportunity that she might just say, who are you? And once I tell her, and I had the tickets on my phone, so as the kids say, I had the receipts, wouldn't have likely been that big of a deal. But as I observed this woman's behavior, I noticed that she was, again, no judgment, none at all. Have fun, do your thing. She appeared to take part in tailgating. Again, I absolutely mean it. No judgment. Have fun. Enjoy the game. Do the things. Blow off some steam. Absolutely. But be mindful that there's other people on planet Earth, right? So as I watched her behavior, I just thought, perhaps it's a good idea for me to just kind of ride this out. I said to my wife at one point, I said, I think she'll likely just take off. I'm not too worried about it. I think she's only going to be here a few minutes. It didn't feel like she was ever going to hunker down for the whole game, if you know what I'm saying. Lots of her verbiage was, we should go here and we should go there, and oh my God, the drinks is up. Okay, so that's what I'm hearing out of my left ear. And so I was thinking to myself, well, okay, eventually this is just going to take care of itself. And so when my wife, she said to me, she goes, why don't you just talk to this woman? And I looked at her and I said, I don't want to get canceled. And she kind of looked at me like, what? I said, I don't want the hassle. I don't want the heartburn. I don't want the BS that's associated with this. I don't need our CEO requesting a 7:30 meeting on Monday morning so we can talk about my behavior over the weekend. I don't need any of that. Now, does it get to that? I don't know. I would have thought that when a foul ball was hit by Harrison Bader at the feet of a family and the dad picks up the ball and hands it to his 10-year-old son on his birthday, that somebody wouldn't come over to him, tap him on the arm and say, you took my ball. And him like, what? You took my ball. That ball was mine. So he takes the ball out of his son's glove and hands it to the woman, if for no other reason than to get her to go away. Leave me alone. Okay, fine. Take your ball. Now, it works out for the kid, I suppose, in a manner of speaking. He ends up, I think, meeting Harrison Bader. He gets a signed bat and various other trinkets that Harrison was more than kind enough to give this young kid, which, again, is that's great, and that's the team doing damage control on its own, right? You don't want this hanging over the head. They have to respond, or at least they feel like they have to respond in a way that makes everybody happy, because in the customer service business, you need those butts back in seats. You've got big contracts to pay, and if you can get Harrison Bader to go meet with the kid for a few minutes, sign a couple of things, take a picture or two, and everything goes away and everybody's happy, yay, buddy. What I thought was interesting was Pitchfork Nation alive and well on the interwebs looking for this lady. She's been misidentified once already as a teacher somewhere, I think in Massachusetts. I may have screwed that up, so don't hold me to that. The story will be in the show notes for you if you're that interested. The school had a rather humorous press release attached to it says, yeah, no, that's not our, she's one of our teachers. That's not her. She's a Red Sox fan. Okay, so we got through all of that, funny, ha. But here's the thing in either scenario that I think is dangerous. Somebody does something like that to you. You have a bad moment, right? Should you lose your job? Say I blew it up with this lady at the football game. Say that let's just use common vernacular, went after her in a verbal sense, certainly not in a physical sense, but went after her in a verbal sense. And she just got, was aghast at the things that I said and was just so put off. And, oh, my goodness, yeah, asked me to move, but my God, you insulted me. And on it went, right? And that's the thing. When you say something to somebody, the thing you don't know is how they're going to process what it is that you're saying to them. Unless it's benign, direct commentary, they're not going to, they're going to take the opportunity to play the victim. That's a big assumption. Rarely have I seen, certainly lately, where people who have felt that they've been wronged, they certainly want you to know that they feel like they've been wronged. So I don't know if I played it the right way. It felt kind of icky. It felt kind of, it felt like, hey, certainly if I would have had two more butts for those seats, I absolutely would have said, hey, listen, I don't know where your seat is, but it's not here, see? And she would have had to have moved. And if she wouldn't have moved, I certainly would have, texted that number they talk about and got somebody over there to help this lady extract herself from our seats in our row. But in this case, it was just the two of us, and so it wasn't that big of a deal. And yeah, JT, you can move down a chair and there's room enough for everybody. Sure, you can do some of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, my thought was the nerve. The nerve, right? The nerve to just plop down. Not a big deal until Monday morning. They're threatening you with your job because you didn't handle one situation over the weekend correctly. It puts a lot of pressure on the person that is being, that in both cases, sort of, follow me here now, sort of has the treasure, right? I have the seats, he has the baseball, and in both cases, somebody wants something that you have. And they come at you in a way where you have to treat them correctly, or it could cost you, in some cases, everything. I'm not in a position to lose my job. I can't just lose my job because I didn't treat this person the right way, right? And in the end, I know Bob Layton a little bit. Bob would be like, JT, it's a damn seat at football. Just give her the seat, right? And that's what rang in my head. Just give her the seat. Not a big deal. Portland State Potato Bowl. We have 4 seats. We only need 2. Not a big deal. UND hockey, when we have 8 seats and we need all 8 seats, and somebody, which has happened before, somebody wants to come down and just plop down in a seat, there's going to be a confrontation. I don't, and I think most people that know me would tell you, I don't necessarily shy away from a confrontation. As I've aged, I've tried to be more selective in when I activate that button. But the bar of just, if you sit there and say nothing, they eat you alive. If you fight fire with fire, they eat you alive. The time frame to handle something like this correctly is the window is very, very small, and you don't know who's got a cell phone camera on you at all times. And that's the part that I think is most alarming. This Philadelphia Karen, as they're calling her, a Karen is somebody, by the way, that misbehaves poorly, that is out on the fringes, that is out of their mind, that is acting ridiculous by most standards. People call that person a Karen. So in this case, she's Philadelphia Karen. Was she having a bad day? Yeah, maybe. Is she like that all the time? Yeah, maybe. But should she lose her job? That's where you lose me a little bit. I'm not sure. The stuff like that, as my parents used to teach me, says more about them than it does you. The young kid learned the lesson. They're now making the talk show circuit, and they're going to see the countryside because they get to visit with this personality and that personality and get to do all these different things. Does that make up for it? No. Should the kid have the baseball? Sure. Did he get one from Harrison Bader anyway? Yeah. Did it work? Yeah. Right. Did the lady spend about a half a quarter sitting next to me and then got up and left and I never saw her again? She did. Was it an obnoxious 10-ish game minutes? It was. Did I survive it? I'm here. Do I still have my job? Yes, I do. So I guess you could argue that in this case I handled it correctly. It's just, though, a warning that as you get back into going to sports games in the fall and then in the wintertime, and there's going to be some higher pressure situations even for fans. And it's unfortunate we have to talk about it this way. But I got to tell you, if you spend $1,000 for a seat and you get to that seat and that seat is occupied by somebody else when you've paid $1,000 for it, buddy, there's going to be a problem. Even the meekest among us are going to be saying, hold on. What are you doing here? I ain't moving, lady. Well, sir, I look at my I don't care what your phone says. I'm not moving. Okay. Now you got to get somebody over there. Now you're sitting down, and now this guy's upset, and now all you want to do is sit in your seat, and you're part of this. And now you become internet famous or infamous, and now you're all over the place. And all you did was try to go and sit to your seat. And meanwhile, your boss sees it, doesn't like the attention because somebody in the comments writes, works at blah, blah, blah bank. Let's get her fired. Awesome. When she explains to her boss, I spent $1,000 for that seat. Here's what happened. I wanted that seat. And for a period of time, the bank president stands behind her in my made-up scenario until the heat gets to be too hot. And then he says, yeah, you know what? We're just going to have to, I think we're going to have to part company today because, we can't take the negative publicity. I'm sorry. Please get your things. And that happens. So just, again, be careful out there. Understand that that happens. There's two examples of it right there. Philadelphia Karen, I don't know how long she can lay underground. The internet has a good track record of finding you and naming you and then making your life horribly uncomfortable. There has been several examples of this through the course of time. There was a guy not too long ago that beat up somebody, I think after the Super Bowl, on a sidewalk. Again, unnecessary. Should he have been charged with assault? All those things. Yeah. But internet sleuths found him, named him, made his business aware of him doing these things. And then he lost his job. Some sad, at least I think it's sad. Former North Dakota Game and Fish Director Terry Steinwand arrested on suspicion of sexual misconduct. In this case, Mr. Steinwand is 71. He's the former director of the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Charges of gross sexual imposition with a victim under the age of 15. He was arrested in Mandan by the Mandan Police Department. Steinwand retired from the North Dakota Game and Fish Department in 2021. He worked with the department for 40 years, appointed as director of the agency by then Governor John Hoeven in 2006. I have said before, and so I will continue to say, these people that are in this place, I don't know that you rehab them. I think they need to sit on an island and with each other. And I think occasionally we drop food by. And I think that's the end of it. Let them figure it out from there. But it shows you Ray Holmberg, Terry Steinwan. I'm not necessarily comparing the two. I'm simply identifying them as guys that had high profile positions. Terry will get his day in court. There's likely some details to the story that we don't know. So we'll give that an opportunity to play out. But if it is what it thinks that it is, and generally by this point, it is what we think that it is, whatever Mr. Steinwan has left in his life for years likely are going to be spent behind bars. Watch closely, though. Pay close attention to what goes on here, as Mr. Steinwan may see, because of his notoriety. Just pay close attention to that. Grand Forks Public Schools Native American students are graduating at lower rates than the district average. This is something that I'm going to tie another two stories together here because I think Fargo is trying to do something about some of the things that go on in classrooms. I've never been a teacher. I have a lot of great friends that are teachers that have been doing this a long time. It's one of the hardest jobs on planet Earth. It's not an easy thing. You are simply handling other people's problems all day. For about 180, 191 days a year is your time with them. You're asked to do lots of different things with them. You're asked to teach them. You're asked to coach them. You're asked to make sure that they behave correctly. And some of it lands and some of it does not. In this case, with Native Americans, had a graduation rate of 31%, 10% lower than district average over the last 2 years. District leaders said correcting this discrepancy requires a bit of a shift in priorities. Grand Forks School District Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, Matt Bakke, and Native American liaison, Chad Ward, said several factors contributed to graduation rate discrepancies, including a lack of district prioritization in the past. When we dedicate our time and commit our time to certain goals, we see those increase and we see impacts in a positive way. And sometimes when it isn't our focal point, things slide a bit. In 22-23, Native American students had a 46% graduation rate compared to a 77% overall graduation rate for Grand Forks Public Schools. You think about that. Regardless of nationality, only 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. With all of the different ways that you can graduate at this point in time. 7 out of 10. Almost 8, but 7 out of 10 graduate. So you think about that. You line up 10 high school students, high school seniors, across the wall, and just know that 2, almost 3 of those kids are not going to graduate. Worse if you're a Native American kid. According to Warden Bakke, barriers to transportation, limited access to reliable internet, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, if I recall, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I was still slugging it out over a hot microphone on the blowtorch of the Northern River Valley, known as 1310 KNOX. There was a lot of effort that went to making sure every student had reliable internet. The school districts, along with trying to get each kid, I believe each kid got one. Donations were made by cell companies and to make sure they had iPads or some sort of tablet device so that they could go to school during COVID-19. But I get it. Likely not everybody got one. And I guess, rising cost of living in Grand Forks is another reason cited. And lack of cultural specific programming were all factors that influence graduation rate gaps for Native students. To address the discrepancies, Ward meets monthly with the Grand Forks Native American Parents Council to discuss specific needs for Native students and families in the districts. He said, talking with families and representatives directly is necessary for student success. I think just recognizing that families need a voice, he said. I struggle with this one. I do. First of all, we should all be alarmed that 77%, almost 8 out of 10, right? I mean, almost 2 out of 10 don't make it. They don't graduate high school. That's how do you not graduate high school? Right? Which also lends to something that we do rarely talk about, really anywhere in the media or anywhere else about Grand Forks, is that poverty is a real thing. That there's plenty of our neighbors that are living in poverty. And it's, as I say, it's a real thing. It's not, it's a thing. So when you think about that, and you think about the idea that, parents, maybe two of them have to go to work every day, so maybe little Johnny has to miss their sophomore year of classes so they can stay home and watch siblings. Maybe we're not equipping them with the proper ways that they can finish up their high school degree because life circumstances started early for them. So they have to get after it. They have to get it done a different way. In 2025, almost 2026, we have the ability to help everybody across the finish line. You have got to get out of the Grand Forks public school system with a degree. You have to. And if you can't, you have to do everything possible so that at the end of the day, and document it to say, we tried. We did everything we possibly could. And I would say that Dr. Brenner and others, Dr. Brenner, the superintendent of schools, Mr. Bakke, Dr. Galach and others would say, look, JT, we try. We try. We do everything that we can. But in some cases, if they don't want it, it's not going to happen. It's just, it doesn't happen. So there's some of that's in play here. The part that rubs me a little bit is, so what kind of studies are you looking for? So if we did Native American Heritage 101, 201, 301, 401, and 501, and we required everybody to take it, does that change this 46% number? Graduation rate among Native Americans in the Grand Forks Public School District? If the answer to that is, wow, I mean, okay, well, they still got to do math, right? Still got to do spelling. You still got to write. You got to do all the things that all the other kids got to do. You got to go to the gym. You got to go to the library. You got to take a foreign language. You got to do all of these things. But if we were to say, okay, we're going to tilt the curriculum. Oh, you're Native American? Okay, well, here is your path to graduation. If you just want to vent, because when I hear things like, oh, it's just very important that we have a voice, what that tells me is that you want to get together with somebody of influence and you want to vent. I don't know that you ever really expect change or real change. But at the end of the day, that's really what you're doing, is you're venting. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And nothing changes until nothing changes. So what's really in play here? What's really in play? Is there still systemic racism alive and well in Grand Forks, North Dakota? Is there people that don't have the same opportunities that other races and ethnicities have? Perhaps. Is there some things going on culturally that we can do to try to enhance the experience for minorities and specifically Native Americans that are in our school district? Likely. Is there an imbalance in the classroom? I think there's a lot of teachers that would take an affront to that. At the end of the day, what I believe, what I'm told to some degree, is that the material is the material. And every student's asked to learn it. And the material doesn't know color, doesn't know race, doesn't know ethnicity, doesn't know any of that. It's just the material. So if you don't know the material, you can't master the material. If you can't get to a point to where you can get a C or a D or a passing grade on the material, then whose fault is that? Is that the material's fault? Is that the student's fault? Is that the family unit's fault? If you're Hillary Clinton, it takes a village, right? So is it the village's fault? While I think it's important to take a look at it, while I think it's important to analyze it, while I think it's important that you make certainly accommodations to those that need it, those that might have some sort of a learning disability or need some help along the way to try to make sure that they're getting what they need out of the experience. But I think that the headline out of all of this for me has nothing to do with race or ethnicity and has everything to do with the fact that we got to get these kids over the finish line. you are going to be horribly behind just in life. Your earning potential and all the rest of it, which really, to me, if you think about it in reverse, is the magic sauce that we're talking about here. You can't get out. You can't get to where you need to go in life. You can't pay for housing. You can't unless you have a high school diploma. Are there cases where you can go through life without a high school diploma and do okay? Yes, there are examples of that. But is it exponentially better for you if you have at least a high school diploma and then some training at a college or some sort of trade school? Absolutely. So we got to push these kids over the finish line. We got to figure out a way, again, in 2025, almost 2026, how the heck are we going to do that? Lead Teacher is a program. Lead Teacher is a program that's being tested in Fargo and the Northern Cass school districts. And it works like this. 2 school districts will spearhead a program. Fargo Public Schools and Northern Cass Schools in Hunter have been chosen to pilot a lead teacher program. North Dakota is the first state to gain approval for the program, said Kirsten Basler, North Dakota Superintendent of Public Instruction. The approach, developed at Arizona State University, uses teams of teachers in classrooms with one in the lead role rather than the traditional approach of one teacher, one classroom. Lori Matsky, head of program development and growth in the North Dakota Department of Instruction, said a delegation went to Phoenix to check out the program firsthand. We've seen it in action, and, we're just hooked. 10 teachers identified from Jefferson and Bennett Elementary School and Carl Ben Eielson Middle School in Fargo, and 5 teachers from Northern Cass will make the trip to Phoenix later this month to see the model in action and to receive training. Matsky used as an example of 4 classrooms with 25 students each being combined. So instead of having one teacher assigned to each classroom, the teachers would share that roster of 100 students. The spaces would be shared by lead teacher, other teachers, special education teachers, paraprofessionals, and volunteers. So now, if you're a taxpayer, what do you hear? Right? We're going to need more what? Teachers. We're going to need more people. We're going to need, and there's going to be more expense because after you pay them and then after you benefit them and then after you set up all of their retirement benefits, this is a rather expensive endeavor. What gets you to the next point, though? What makes you say, yeah, oh no, let's do this. Let's give this a try. Let's name some lead teachers. Let's also name some secondary teachers, I guess. We're not calling them lead teachers, what we call them secondary teachers, paraprofessionals, special education. It's a virtual team of people. It's like when you go to the doctor's office and you've got something wrong with you. You've got a specialist, you've got your primary doctor, you've got nurses that come in, you've got people that are specific to doing tests. You've got, so it's just like going to the doctor with one person sort of in charge and overseeing the whole thing. Oftentimes that's your primary, but depending on what it is, could be the specialist or somebody else. So that's sort of the approach, I suppose, to going in and teaching these kids. But have we evolved or devolved, depending on your point of view, to the point to where we need to have more than one teacher in a classroom, or as the story points out, you have 100 students in a particular section and you have a group of teachers that sort of share the student load, with I suppose the lead student having, or the lead teacher rather, having more input or sway when it comes time to make decisions related to what these kids are doing. The thing that I would be, we all benefit from an educated society, which is why the taxpayer gets involved. There is no doubt about that. I wouldn't even argue that for a second. I do think, though, we got to be very, very careful as we go forward as to, all right, so we're going to add 5 teachers next year, 5 teachers a year after that, 5 teachers a year after that. And then what are the measurables? What are we doing here? That'll do it for this edition of the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. I want to ask you a question, though, before I go. I'm curious if you would be interested in working out with me. Sanford Sports in the Columbia Mall. At 5:30 a bunch of us adults, we go in and we work out. And there's anywhere from, 14, I think the high point can get us to 16, 17. It is those of you that like group fitness, that you need some encouragement, that you need somebody or some buddies to push you along. This is what's right for you. September 15th through the 19th, they are having a free week. And 5:30, that doesn't work out for you. AM seems early. It's really not, especially as you get older. 5:30, I believe 9, noon, and then they're going to introduce a brand new class Monday through Thursday at 5:30 in the afternoon. You have a coach. The programming is there for you. There's some mobility. There's some stretching. There's some cardio. The cardio isn't this hardcore run. It's not that kind of cardio. It's just cardio. It's good for you. It's all encompassed in this very 1 hour format. And again, splits you into some smaller groups, so some can do cardio while others work the kettlebells, while others do some strength training, while others play with the medicine balls. Again, I just encourage you to come and check out a class and see Anthony in his element. Anthony Mirando, who's been a guest on this podcast, is the general manager over there and the head coach. And again, it's just a very it's one of these things that I wish I had done in my life sooner. So free week, September 15th through the 19th in the Columbia Mall, Sanford Sports Performance. Just come in, tell them you're here for the free week. Hell, tell them JT sent you. Again, if 5:30 in the morning is too early, it doesn't work for you, whatever. There are some other options there, but that free week is only September 15th through the 19th, and it's for adults. If you're an adult or you're old enough to be an adult, I encourage you to come and join us. Brandon Boczynski will be, my hope is anyway, he's in pencil. I'm trying to get him inked in pen on the next Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. And I thank you again. Tell a friend, please. Like, subscribe, do all the things. And, of course, anywhere podcasts are found. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast.